St Mary's Church in Dublin was built in 1701, just metres from the River Liffey. Arthur Guinness and his wife were married in the church in 1761. The most notable baptisms to take place in the church was that of the great playwright Sean O'Casey. O'Casey is famed for the Dublin Trilogy. In 1928, he was going to have a known dispute with poet W.B. Yeats and the owner of the Abbey Theatre over using contraception in his play The Silver Tassie. Sean would leave Ireland to live in England shortly afterwards and never to return. He died in 1964. Other notable baptisms was that of Theobald Wolfe Tone in 1763. Born into a Protestant family of French descent, Wolfe Tone was founder of the Society of the United Irishmen, along with guys like Thomas Russell, Henry Joy McCracken, Thomas Addis Emmet, the older brother of Robert Emmet. Wolfe Tone spent much of the 1790s in America and France, gaining support for an invasion against the British Empire. In 1796, a French military landing under the leadership of General Lazare Hoche was bound for Bantry Bay in Cork, with 15,000 men on board 43 ships. The mission failed due to severe weather conditions in the Atlantic Ocean. Many ships were destroyed, and those who made it to shore were captured by the British military and killed. The 1798 rebellion saw battles take place all over Ireland, from Dublin to Antrim to Wexford, and the Battle of Vinegar Hill, which was led by Father John Murphy. The rising failed, and Wolfe Tone was captured on board a French ship off the coast of Donegal. Brought to Dublin and court-martialed, due to be hung, he slit his own throat and died on the 19th of November. He is buried in Kildare, near his birthplace. Many people who took part in the rebellion were sentenced to death by the notorious Judge Lord Norbury. Born John Toller in 1745 in Tipperary, his family originated from England. He was called to the Irish bar in 1770, and over a period of 30 years he rose through the ranks and was feared and hated by the citizens of Ireland. Norbury would earn the nickname the Hanging Judge by sentencing people to death over meaner crimes. At one trial, where a man was being tried for stealing, the judge fell asleep halfway through, only to wake up and sentence the man to death. His most famous trial is that of Robert Emmet. In 1803, Emmet, a friend of Wolfe Tone and brother of Thomas Addis Emmet, was in exile in France in the 1790s. Upon hearing of the failed rebellion in 1798, he returned to Ireland to fulfil the dreams of a united Ireland. Emmet began to manufacture weapons and explosives in a premises just off Thomas Street, not far from Guinness Brewery. However, an unexpected explosion in the premises drew the attention of the British Army. The 1803 rising was put back for by a few months. The 1803 proclamation printed the provisional government. This would later become a massive influence over the 1916 proclamation. On the day of the rebellion, with the promise of 2,000 men, only a few dozen or so turned up. Story has it that the men got held up in a pub on the way to Dublin and were too drunk to take part. The rebellion failed and Robert Emmet went into hiding. He was eventually captured and put on trial on the 19th September. Before sentencing, Emmet would give an 8-hour speech. The next day, in front of St Catherine's Church on Thomas Street, he was executed. There is different accounts of what actually happened. Lord Norbury sentenced him to be hung, drawn and quartered. The other story is that he was hung and beheaded. From my research over the years, Emmet received the original sentence of to be hung, drawn and quartered. Where Robert's remains are buried is unknown. From doing research over the years and speaking to somebody who worked in the Brazen Head pub some years ago, it is said that the ghost of Robert Emmet has appeared there on many occasions. The Brazen Head pub is the oldest pub in Ireland, and Emmet frequented there to spy on his enemies. Daniel O'Connell, who would become known as the Liberator, a man who fought for Catholic emancipation, condemned the 1803 rebellion, stated, "Good God, what a brute man becomes when ignorant and oppressed. O liberty, what horrors are committed in thy name. May every virtuous revolutionist remember the horrors of Wexford." O'Connell was also a fierce adversary of Lord Norbury for many years. He wanted him removed from the judicial system and went to Parliament in London to seek the removal. he failed. It wasn't until Lord Norbury sentenced a young man to death for stealing sheep that Lord Norbury would finally fall. The young man had just married his childhood sweetheart weeks before his death. Before he was hanged, the young man's widow told Lord Norbury that when she died she vowed to return and haunt Norbury until the end of time, promising never to let him sleep a peaceful night. The widow died of a broken heart shortly after her husband's death, and it is said that Lord Norbury suffered from chronic insomnia, paranoia and schizophrenia until his death in 1831. He was buried in the adjoining cemetery of St Mary's Church, where some of his victims are laid to rest. In 1964, the church finally closed, and under strict supervision of the Church of Ireland and the City Council, the remains that lay in the church vault were removed and repatriated to another cemetery. The church lay abandoned for nearly 40 years. Today it's now a trendy bar.